On the Las Vegas Strip, the lights never go out. The Strip is a machine designed to make darkness impossible. A 40-mile hallucination of neon and glass built to convince everyone standing on it that night is optional. Somewhere in the middle of that hallucination, for nearly 7 years, there stood a tower that proved the machine had limits. 28 stories of curved blue glass rising against the Nevada sky, its facade scattering the Strip's light back in cold, elegant waves. From the sidewalk, it looked like the most sophisticated building on the boulevard. Tourists photographed themselves in front of it. They had no idea they were standing before the most expensive mistake in the history of American hospitality. The Harmon Hotel never checked in a single guest. Not one. Its rooms were never furnished. Its bar never poured a drink. The reason it stood empty was not bankruptcy, not the recession. The reason was hidden inside its walls, encoded into its bones, invisible to the naked eye, and catastrophic to every engineer who found it. This is the story of a building that was never allowed to become what it was designed to be, because the people building it made a mistake so permanent, so buried in cured concrete, that the only honest response was to erase it. And erasing it would cost almost as much as building it. Ambition on the Las Vegas Strip is measured in billions and built in glass, steel, and concrete. In November 2004, MGM Mirage announced CityCenter, an $8.5 billion city within a city. 28 acres of desert transformed into a modernist wonderland. The Harmon Hotel was to be its crown jewel. MGM wanted more than a hotel, they wanted a statement, one that would rise above the neon chaos and declare a new era for the Strip. The numbers alone staggered the imagination. $275 million set aside for a single tower, with a workforce that would eventually swell to over 10,000 men and women laboring around the clock. The vision belonged to Norman Foster, a name that echoed from London to Berlin to Hong Kong. Foster's blueprints called for 49 stories of curved glass, a shimmering oval that would catch the desert sun by day and reflect the city's artificial stars by night. The Harmon would offer 400 hotel rooms, 225 luxury residences, and a rooftop bar nearly 600 feet in the air. Every detail was calibrated for spectacle, from the spa's cantilevered pools to the lobby's sculpted light. Contracts were signed in January 2005, awarding Foster's firm full control over architecture, engineering, and interiors. The project's scope demanded precision and speed. A compressed schedule meant that excavation, foundation work, and vertical construction began just months after the ink dried. In March 2006, Perini Building Company won the general contract, and by June, the first piles were driven into the desert floor. Concrete began to rise, floor after floor, as the Strip watched a new shape take form on its skyline. CityCenter's promise was not just luxury, but a redefinition of Las Vegas itself, a place where spectacle and substance would finally align. In that promise, risk lurked, measured not in headlines or high roller bets, but in the silent math of engineering, the invisible logic that holds a tower upright. No one on those first days imagined that a margin of error measured in fractions of an inch could one day turn this monument to ambition into an empty shell. Concrete rose in the desert, floor by floor, as if nothing could interrupt the rhythm of ambition. By the summer of 2008, the Harmon shell had reached its 28th story, its glass skin gleaming in the Nevada sun, a promise nearly fulfilled. But inside the core, a different story was curing, one that would never be visible from the Strip. In June, a team of independent forensic engineers pored over construction logs and blueprints, searching for the invisible. What they found would halt the project in its tracks. On 15 of the completed 28 floors, the steel rebar, the hidden skeleton meant to anchor the Harmon against the violence of an earthquake, had been misplaced. Some bars were cut short, others set too shallow, many clustered out of alignment by as little as an inch. In the world of seismic engineering, that margin is the difference between a building that sways and one that shatters. The Harmon was classified as a Category D structure, designed to withstand lateral forces that could buckle lesser towers. Instead, calculations now showed a reduction in shear capacity by nearly 30%. The building's ability to absorb and dissipate seismic energy had been fatally compromised. The danger was not hypothetical. It was structural, permanent, and irreversible. Inspectors traced the error to the 5th floor, but by the time the forensic review was complete, the flaw stretched upward through the heart of the tower. The concrete had already cured. There was no way to excavate the steel, no practical path to reinforce what was now entombed within. The tower's elegant silhouette masked a silent hazard, a failure measured in fractions of an inch, multiplied across 15 floors. For the engineers, the numbers told a simple truth. The Harmon could not guarantee life safety in a region where the ground itself might one day turn violent. The Strip's newest monument was, in fact, a risk to everyone who might one day cross its threshold. Clark County's stop work order arrived with the force of a silent alarm. Overnight, the Harmon became a monument to uncertainty, a gleaming, glass-wrapped shell stranded above the Strip's endless motion. Permit SWO 2008-45, stamped in red, froze every tool and every hand. Workers packed up and left. The tower's lights never turned on. Behind the facade, empty corridors stretched floor after floor, the promise of luxury suites and penthouses replaced by silence and dust. On the street below, the city pulsed with life. Tourists drifted past, snapping photos of a building that looked ready to open, never guessing it hit a flaw no lobby renovation could fix. Buyers who had wired deposits for condominiums, some as much as $700,000, received terse notices. Occupancy was indefinitely postponed, their dreams and savings suspended in legal limbo. For some, the forfeited deposits represented years of work that now vanished into the paperwork of a halted project. Regulators stepped into the breach. Clark County officials posted public notices and locked down the site, citing imminent safety risks. Permit amendments filed in June 2008 reduced the tower's height on paper, but could not erase what had already been built. The Harmon's glass reflected a city that never stopped moving, while inside, progress had been reduced to a legal question. What happens to a building that cannot be trusted to stand? The Harmon's fate, once a matter of blueprints and ambition, migrated to the courthouse. Construction halted, and the Strip's would-be icon became a pawn in a high-stakes legal contest. MGM Mirage leveled a claim against Perini Building Company, seeking more than $500 million in damages, an accusation that the contractor's errors had not only sabotaged the tower, but had also inflicted lasting wounds on CityCenter's balance sheet. Perini countered with its own arsenal, a mechanic's lien for $120 million, insisting that unpaid work and change orders had left them holding the bag for a project gone awry. Court dockets swelled with filings, many stamped confidential, their contents redacted or sealed by judicial order. The true cost of the Harmon's failure became a matter of speculation, as both sides pressed their cases behind closed doors. Depositions ran hundreds of pages, and expert witnesses debated seismic codes and engineering tolerances, each calculation another volley in a paper war. The final settlement, reached in secrecy, left the public with only fragments, a confidential agreement, a vanished sum, a monument to ambition reduced to legal ash. The unfinished tower remained, its glass reflecting the Strip's lights, while inside the records, the question of blame was never fully illuminated. Demolition at the Harmon unfolded with quiet precision. Hemmed in by Veer Towers to the north, Vidara's Glass to the south, and the Crystals complex below, there was no room for spectacle. Implosion was out of the question. Las Vegas code and common sense saw to that. In June 2014, AECOM's crews took charge, beginning with a silent shutdown. Power was cut, elevators were sealed, and systems were drained. Inside, workers stripped each floor, removing wiring and pipes that had never been used. Concrete saws bit through unfinished suites, while blue glass panes were carefully lifted and stacked, remnants of an unrealized vision. By autumn, cranes hovered as slabs were sliced and lowered, a process repeated 28 times, each move logged in contractor records. Dust suppression rigs ran constantly, shielding the city from the work. The cost reached $45 million. On May 5th, 2015, the final slab was hauled away. In the end, nothing remained, just open sky where the Harmon once stood, a methodical erasure of a once grand idea. In a city built to defy reality, the Harmon's silent core proved physics never bluffs. Its vanished presence leaves a warning, even here. Illusion can't outlast a flaw measured in millimeters. Today, every tower rises on the certainty that concrete remembers what ambition prefers to forget. What do you think endures?